Senator Johnson, followed by Senator Merkley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're trying to scramble to get the chart, my own version of the chart that Senator Grassley was talking about. Hopefully we can get it up here before I'm done. I'll just start, ask all the witnesses. Anybody want to defend the current tax code? Anybody think it's a great code? Okay, silence. It's way too complex, right? So when you have something really complex, that's something that can be taken advantage of, correct? So shouldn't our efforts be, rather than reforming the tax code and try and continue to socially and economically engineer through the tax code, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to simplify and rationalize the tax code? Mr. Falkender.
It would indeed, and that's one of the things we tried to do in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was by doubling the standard deduction and removing some of the deductions for other items was to encourage more people, to encourage fewer people to itemize and more people to take the standard deduction, thereby making it less complex. But unfortunately, people then still calculate it both ways, and we didn't succeed in doing that.
Right, it's complex because you have all these special interests from all over, from all ends of the spectrum, coming in here and carving out a little special deal for themselves, so it ends up being incredibly complex. So let's put this chart up here. This is what Senator Grassley was talking about. I mean, this is the futility of trying to punish individuals, trying to punish their success. It just doesn't work. People aren't that stupid. They're willing to hand over so much to government and no more. Ms. Anderson, I want to ask you, what percent of an American's income, of a dollar of income, should the federal government be able to extract? What's the maximum tax rate? Again, I'm just talking about the federal government now. What do you think?
I'd be happy to give you my preferred top marginal tax rate.
What is it?
Once you close the loopholes that make
okay,
a mockery
I'm assuming
of the top tax rate.
let's call it the effective tax rate. Okay,
No.
What is the maximum amount anybody ought to pay after all the deductions, that type of thing?
Since people are not paying that at the top level, we have billionaires paying an effective 8.2%
I didn't know. What is the maximum? Just give me, what do you think is the most anybody should pay out of a dollar of income?
Yeah, it's not about, that chart is not about futility.
Okay,
that chart is about loopholes that members of Congress have allowed in the tax code.
I got limited time. Dr. Stiglitz, what do you think the maximum amount anybody ought to pay out of a dollar of income?
I think you begin by asking the question, how do you close the loopholes? And
guys, it's a very simple question. What is the maximum amount any American ought to pay out of a dollar of income? It's a very simple question. Again, eliminate all the loopholes, but I mean the effective rate was the maximum amount somebody ought to pay.
But again, one of the things I said is if you derive your money from land speculation, you should pay a very high tax rate.
First of all, let me say, to simplify the tax code, income should be income. There is a rationale for a lower tax on capital gains because you're taxing the inflationary gain. So you could index the inflationary gain and then tax it at the individual rate. Here was my proposal in 2017, 2018. I call it a true Warren Buffett tax. Tax all business income at the ownership level, okay? 95% of American businesses are pass-throughs. It's entirely possible. I talked to Warren Buffett about this, talked to his shareholder services people. You can allocate income, and you tax income every year, allocate it, and tax it at the ownership level. You could have corporations do a backup withholding. All kinds of advantages of that plan right now. Parts of it are being scored by JCT. Hopefully, the chairman of both this committee and the finance committee, I know Chairman Wyden is interested in it. So again, that would be a simple system. And by the way, it would be able to, you wouldn't have that locking up of unrealized profit in C Corps. It's just, again, what's going to happen in 2016 is a gross distortion and put small companies, 95% of American businesses, at a huge disadvantage to the big C Corps. So we need to address that. But Mr. Falkender, why don't you comment on what I'm talking about there? And I don't think you've ever seen that plan.
No, I've heard you talk about it, but I haven't yet seen the details, and I look forward to seeing the score come out. But yes, if we could do everything as a pass-through, you'd eliminate some of the distortions that are created by changing your tax structure all to have a lower rate either as a C Corp or an S Corp. What we ought to do is tax all income uniformly and stop saying if you spend money the way government wants you to, you have a lower or a no tax rate than if you don't do it than if you spend your money the way you want to.
So you agree, we do a terrible job socially and economically engineering through tax code, so stop doing it.
That's right.
Use the tax code to collect the revenue the government needs as simply and fairly as possible. That ought to be our effort. Rather than talk about these all complex things about a billionaire tax, let's simplify this thing. Let's rationalize this. That's what I'm going to try and push for the next couple of years.
Yeah, lower the rates, broaden the base, stop picking and choosing winners and losers through the tax code.
By the way, one principle that we should abide by is wherewithal to pay. So trying to tax unrealizable capital gains would be disastrous, okay? But again, I hope the chairman takes a look at my tax plan because it makes a lot of sense.
I'm sympathetic to the senator's concerns, and I appreciate the enthusiasm with which he pursues them. I do think that when it comes to the question of what the tax rate should be on a dollar of income, it matters whether it's the first dollar or the last dollar, and it matters whether it's the 10,000th dollar or the 10 millionth dollar of income for that individual.
But you're complicating the question. Again, it's just like overall.
Yeah,
the effective tax rate. What should be the max? Do you want to tell me what you think your maximum should be?
I don't, because you got to know what the dollar is.
Well, say it's a person who's earned $1 billion. Say someone earned $1 billion. The last dollar, how much should it be taxed? How much should be? What's the percent? What percent? The last dollar of $1 billion. So now we're giving you your information.
way above 50%.
So what?
Because
what should
the billionaire doesn't even know that dollar exists.
So what? So how? What should
but
it be?
It's very different if somebody's making $30,000.
You asked a question. Which dollar is it? It's $1 billion. Someone earned $1 billion one year. Bill Gates earned $1 billion. What should be taxed in the last dollar?
Well over half.
How about $1 million? 70%. As long as you're
70%.
We're into Senator Merkley's time. Senator Merkley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And